Good. Well, welcome everyone to this afternoon session from the Center of Excellence for Behavior Management. This afternoon, we're going to be looking at brain breaks. My name is Eva DeGostini. I'm the coordinator of the Center of Excellence for Behavior Management, and my two co-coordinators are with me, Martine Demers and
Afternoon.
Catherine Korah.
Hello.
And they are both, they're with the Center of Excellence part-time, but they also work hands-on at Riverside School Board. And so they bring a wealth of experience to this particular situation. So Martine, do you want to put up the
hmm
slides? And what we realized was that with COVID and with all of the stress and strains that come with COVID, we realized that we're searching, as you know, we've been searching for things that we can do to provide help to the classroom teacher and also online, which might happen. And some children are already online, and some teachers are already teaching online with some of the students, just to really figure out ways in which we can help deal with that sort of extra level of emotion and fatigue and difficulty with attention that has come about with a pandemic, which we've never actually lived through. And so we've been looking into a variety of different things, and brain breaks came up. Now, we know that many of you have already been using brain breaks in one way or another, but what we're recognizing through COVID is sometimes things that we do in a more casual way, now we actually need to do it in a more official kind of a way, more regularly, because we really are dealing with a high level of emotion and fatigue. And when we looked into the research, oh my goodness, we realized this is really something that can make a difference. Martine is handling the slides for me, so
There we go.
there we go.
That's
Yes.
right.
So I'm going to take just a very short amount of time to just go through this, because I think if you're here, you're already convinced. But first of all, Edutopia has done a wonderful survey of all the different research. They've pulled lots together. We will be providing a list of references. So if any of you needs to go and actually quote things from the studies, we actually have a list. Catherine will show you at the end
hmm
of our session today, where they can be found on the website. So there's lots there. And when we look at brain breaks, we're talking about both active brain breaks and quiet brain breaks. And what they're basically, so if we start with the physically active ones, over and over and over again, the research is showing, first of all, when activity and movement is in the regular classroom, the brain is able to function at higher levels and stress and anxiety are reduced. Specifically, it increases staying on task, attentiveness, and energy and motivation. What's very interesting is we discovered as we were doing this that there has been a program in the Outaouais from last 9 years called Corps Actif Cerveau Performant, which Western Quebec School Board, by the way, has been involved with. And there are now 25 schools participating, and they've done a longitudinal study. We'll be giving you the reference to that report. It's in French. And again, they have found that it enhances academic performance. And so it shows us what's happening here. CDC, a Center for Disease Control, looked again at a number of studies. Cognitive functioning, academic behaviors, and academic achievement were improving in most of those studies. But the critical thing is that when they allotted classroom time for these activities, it did not have a negative effect on academic achievement. So it's sometimes difficult to prove exactly what's going on inside of the brain, but the behavior and the academic achievement is still happening even when we take this time off, so to speak. When they look at children's brains who are very active, they're finding the hippocampus, which is involved with memory, has a greater volume. The white matter, which is about the connectivity of the brain, is more prominent. There's better patterns of brain activity. And then as a result, the cognitive performance and scholastic achievement is greater. So this, of course, brain breaks are only a part of the whole activity thing, but the more active children are, the better their brains function. John Ratty, in his book, A Spark, among many other things, and the whole book is devoted to basically getting kids to move, but one of his quotes is that exercise is as effective as certain medications for treating anxiety and depression. It increases the endorphins and the dopamine in our brain to deal with some of the things that we concern about when we look at children's mental health and emotional well-being. And also, we all know now there's increased adrenaline, increased cortisol in our system, the alarm, the frustration, all of what's going on. And the physical release actually allows us to use that adrenaline, allows us to use that cortisol. And so we can kind of get it out and just feel a little bit better. But it's also emotionally good for us as well, because when we are frustrated, if we can't make things work, sometimes we just need to let it out. And something like the pool noodle drumming can actually make us feel less frustrated. Of course, sometimes we need quiet breaks as well. So when the world is alarming, when it's frustrating, sometimes we need to calm the nervous system. And it's very interesting because the calming doesn't just come from the repetitive activity. It also comes because emotionally and cognitively, in terms of the way our brain works, is that we're living in a world that isn't working very well right now. So many things we can't do. But when you complete something, this little girl who's knitting, when she completes the thing that she's knitting, she feels as if she's made something work in her world, and that is very soothing for our emotional world. Um, Basically, again, a couple of different quotes here. I think people are scared to take breaks because they think learning stops, but learning doesn't stop during a break. The brain is still doing things with that information that you took in. Rest, indeed, is not idleness. And my understanding of it right now is if we understand about how our brain works in our left hemisphere and our right hemisphere, when we children are in the active learning mode, it is their left hemisphere that's engaged. They're learning specific skills, specific things that we want to add to their capacities. But we actually, for it to go into the right hemisphere, where we put what you're learning into context, and when you join it together with other things, which is, as we know, what true learning is about, that has to happen in rest. So when we provide those moments of rest, those moments of quiet, the brain is actually doing its job, and they've monitored the brains, and they see brains being very active in rest. So rest is good. So ultimately, again, as I say, these brain breaks, the research has told us, they actively contribute to intellectual development, academic progress, and emotional health in our students. And now I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Wonderful. And so, talking about brain breaks, we wanted to put a context and taking a look through the eye of the response to intervention model and looking at what would benefit the group as a whole, what could be activities that could benefit targeted students who have more challenges, and then again, those students who need more individualized support. Sorry. And so, at each of those levels, trying to support them in different ways. We've presented last week, so for those who haven't had the opportunity to take a look at that recording, it is called the Targeted Intervention Model, and we go through each of the different levels, different tiers, and talk about different strategies. And so, of course, in tier 1, which is for the whole class, and then in tier 2 for the more targeted students who have challenges, we've put in both sections different types of brain breaks. And so if we start off with tier 1, and so looking at universal interventions, it's looking at how could we, what would be best practices around classroom brain breaks. And so, of course, for allowing for silliness to take place, because oftentimes, both for students and for us, if we're under stress, and very much so right now, given COVID, how can we try to let out some of that all of that stress? And when things are awkward or vulnerable, the silliness allows for that release. And so trying to be creative, this is not new, doing brain breaks. Teachers have been doing this for a very long time. But I have noticed, in some schools or in some environments where it's oftentimes the same breaks that come up where, kids are doing coloring or kids are doing, I don't know, it could be with the smart board doing some physical activities. And so how can we try to have a range, a whole variety of different types of activities and making it engaging and fun? And so one way, in terms of sparking the interest in students and getting them engaged is not just about us saying, okay, now we're going to do this brain break, and that we choose it for them. It could also be that we get them involved where we could, for example, with popsicle sticks, we could get them to choose, a variety of different activities throughout the day. This is a card that Martine has put together. I will show you later where it is available on our website. And so it's kind of set up in a way of like a suggestion break card. So it's different from the popsicle stick where you would randomly pick out an activity. This sheet could actually be changed up where you could have 10 or 12 different activities, and then that could be used for the week, and then the week after that could be, or the month after that could be switched up. And then you cross out, this could be laminated, and with a dry erase marker, you can cross out the ones if you've done and then move on to the next ones. And so, of course, you could also be using cards. There's also the use of smart boards, whiteboards. There's so many different ways that we can take advantage of having brain breaks. We could even create in the classroom a corner. Here is an example where there's posters that are put up. Martine will speak more about posters in Tier 2, but just as an inspiration, how this could be set up in a section in our class, and then the child can go there as a station and follow whatever is on that poster. And of course, like Eva was saying earlier, brain breaks is not necessarily just physical breaks. It could also be a quiet, more of a slow type of break. And so here are examples that we've put together. There's wonderful magazines out there where you could follow mazes, where you've got the mosaic drawings, mandalas in that idea, the dot to dot or the color by numbers. And this is search and find. I know kids love this, and it could be, and there's so many different levels. You could have them as easy for kindergarten up until you could have them for cycle 3. Puzzles could be another one that can be used as a quiet break individually, but it could also be used as a community project. And so how can we get the group to sometimes have breaks on their own, but sometimes separately, and sometimes have their breaks where they're doing a project together. And so puzzles would be a great way to do this as a group. Same thing with anything with knitting, whether it's weaving, it's looming, and these are just a few samples, quilting, doing the rug hooking. And of course, all of the examples that I named before are things that would be done indoors, but let's think about also getting the kids to go outside, right? Of course, with COVID right now, they are spending a lot of time indoors in the same spot. And so how to get them to change it up and to be able to have access to another environment. And so doing breaks outside. And even with winter, I mean, how could we incorporate with the snow and try to make it fun? These are documentation, again, that are available on our website that I'll show you where they are. Martine and I have been working on this together. This actually stemmed from an original project that we worked on for indoor recess, and then it kind of morphed into other things. And so we wanted to share with you guys, because of course, those who are here today are sold to wanting to do brain breaks. We've had a lot of comments and questions asking us, what else could I be doing? I'm doing often the same 10, 12 things. I'd like to have more ideas. And so we've put up this chart where you've got it divided by cycle, first of all. So we've got one for K, one for cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3. And then the first column is all of the quiet time activities. Middle column is the physical activities. And then the last column on the right is the group activities. And then the top row is what can be done in class. And then, of course, we also think about those students who are actually doing online. And so the bottom row is similar activities, but that can be done more easily virtually. So hopefully this will give you a lot of ideas and inspire you. Martine?
Thanks, Catherine. So we're now heading into Tier 2. Catherine gave you a walkabout of tier one, which was for the whole group within the classroom, and if we're taking the whole group outside. So in looking at tier two, we're looking at who are the challenging students who need more physical movement, that already what they're doing in class is they need more than that. They've got more energy. When do we see that? When do we determine that a student needs it? Is when we're seeing that there are signs of stress or anxiety. They're tired, they're asking for a break, they're not available to learn, they can't sit in their space, they can't keep their body together, they're always shifting and moving, or they're just acting up like they just can't keep it together. And I think there's a part where we need to see where it's not that they don't want to, they're not able to. And there's a part right now where there is so much emotional energy in the kids, is that we do need to provide additional outlets to help them move that through. So high energy activities are one of the one of the great pieces that we can move to. So in some of the schools, they've set up active hallways or sensory hallways. I mean, we're hearing different terms, and part of it is also that we're looking at, there are different ways. I mean, there are decals in some schools, they've set up with systems of decals. Here's an example, and we have the link. There's a video that goes for this that is on our one of our resource documents that we've compiled a whole bunch of links for you. Catherine will show you after where all those resources are. But here's a simple one that was set up with electrical tape, different colors, having fun with it, and assigning different tasks to the different colors and positions of what the tape is on the ground. So it doesn't need to be a very expensive thing. It could also be something that could be changed up quite easily, is another piece. And in time of COVID, something like this on the ground is also very easy to use. It's easy to clean. And if it doesn't last as well, we can set up and create something new. So I think we could even have kids involved in this, and even in the setting up of it, the making of it, having fun, putting ideas together, sketching it out, like just really getting them involved in that whole piece. They need to have the extra energy evacuated if they want to be able to come back to class after and be able to function and for another block of time. So a lot of fun could be had with this. What we've done also is we've created posters from Teachers Pay Teachers resources, which were cards or games, and turned them into posters that could be set up throughout the school to be movement stations. We have in years past created movement stations, but with materials and different signs and options of activities. Because of COVID this year, we can't have the materials in baskets because of the risk for infection, but also the disinfection work that needs to happen. And sometimes, yes, things disappeared. So this is an alternate, which we think is quite good for now, and that it could be experienced and tried out in different ways. We have them, printed 11 by 17. They're laminated, so they could even be used with a dry erase marker, that it could be kind of ticked off as to which ones have been done, and then we can wipe it down. So again, the risk for with COVID is really low, that we just need to disinfect after use. So we've created different ones from the cards, and these are just some of the cards to show you. Some of them are also in forms of a game. Like, these could be used within a classroom for the whole group, but they could also be used individually or with a small group of challenging students outside the classroom. And the goal is to have a lot of fun and get the energy out. And I would really encourage adults to step in and have fun with the kids. I know I'm one for like jumping right in. I love this kind of stuff, but I feel good after, and it switches things up. So I think there's a part when we become involved and we're having fun, there's an engagement factor, but also it makes it that it's just part of the day. We're normalizing the need to get more energy out, not making it, oh, there's something wrong that you've got all this energy, but really giving it a positive tone and
Mm,
twist to it. Now, for some of the older students, sometimes they might find some of that a little bit, young. So these two posters are with different ways of playing Simon Says. The other one is an alphabet fitness. So they could play it with their name, or what is the series of exercises that they would do, but they could also end up creating challenges and making, like with certain words, I would actually go for really long words, but the more energy you need to get out, the longer words you need to find. But even creating that on popsicle sticks, or even having just a dry erase board next to it that you could be writing, and you're writing them on, and you're challenging the next people to come and do it also. So, if you add one on, you need to have done one on the board. I mean, let's put some fun and some twist to it. But I think there's a part where we could really, like help that grow. Now, on the quiet activity side for our tier 2 students, one of the things that we highly recommend is setting up personal bins. They have quiet activities within the classroom. This we really encourage because they need to have that downtime, that processing time. Our challenging students need to have breaks from the group and to come out of the group. If we don't orchestrate those, it kind of makes it that at some point the tension builds and then they're sent out, but not always in a favorable way. So our goal is really to say if we can be proactive and prepare their bin of things that they enjoy doing. So maybe it's search and find, maybe it's a few other things, but if they have things that are ready in a bin and their name is on it, when they need to step out, either they're feeling the need or the adult is saying it's time to take a break, is they have things that they get to go out with, which they know that they have chosen, they've been part of that process, and that they will have a good time with it, but also things that will help them regain a calmer state. So we can go from the physical activity to this one, or for some students, it might be coming back in from recess where the energy level is too high that they need help to come back down. They might be going to another location with their personal bin to be able to have that calm down time. Now, we know with COVID, we need to be protective of bubbles. So we're very aware of that. And so the pieces that we need to have identified locations where they can go to, or it might be that they're going to sit in the class with their bin, but because they have their bin, they're able to handle it differently. So they're not roaming around everywhere. So different pieces to consider, but the personal bin is one that we would encourage. And you'll see that it's one of the activities, one of the pieces, intervention tools that we've put into the tier 2 and tier 3 intervention levels when you look at the targeted interventions continuum. So some of the things that you might want to put in, origami is a really fun piece for children to help them calm, focus. They also end up with a result. Now, it doesn't always work, so that can be frustrating when you're learning in the process of it. But at the same time, there's a great sense of satisfaction when you pull through and you're able to do it. I would do this only if you've taken the time to teach it with students or do it with them, not that they go from a plan, a visual, plan, to do it on their own. Unless they're older students and they have that capacity to tolerate frustration or they want to try it on their own, but I wouldn't set it up that way per se.
Mhm.
So I think there's a part we need to have support, and for some it might be that we're going to, have a list of YouTube videos that you can go to for the different kinds of origamis that they could then try because they've got a visual step. They can pause it, they can try it. So different options, but something to consider here. Drawing, coloring, mandalas are often a big piece. We would encourage adding a package of pencil crayons in their personal bin so that if they leave the room and they haven't picked up their pencil case, they're not at a loss of not having the tools to be able to do the activity that's in their personal bin. So best to have an extra set in there. Anything that would be around making things with their hands. So things that they can fidget, they can play, they can create a fidget, or it can just be to manipulate. And sometimes they will make and take apart, make and take apart. But at the same time, the issue is not about getting a finished product. It's an issue about helping have that an activity that will help bring the energy down and the focus and all that processing, like Eva mentioned, that happens when they have a quiet activity continues to flow. So it is not a break that is not time, that is time that is not useful. It's actually quite useful in different ways. So I think I think we need to sometimes shift a little bit our focus is how beneficial these are and how they're an investment in the learning time after in the class. Now, not all students like to do the craftsy kind of stuff, and they'll say, like, I don't like crafts, like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want that in my bin. And they don't, or they're tired of the coloring. For some kids, games like, having cards to play with, and then we need to look at do they know one person card games? And that could be something else that we can do a little bit of teaching with. And it's also a great something to have during indoor recess is the individual games like Hoppers, Rush Hour Junior, or just the Rush Hour if they're older, and Tip Over, which is more like for a cycle 2, cycle 3 student, are really good games to have in there in that they have different levels with the cards. So the challenge increases, but also if it's reserved in their bin for a block of time, and it might be for a couple of weeks, it doesn't mean they have it for the whole year because they wouldn't need it for the whole year. And you want to switch things up in their personal bin. So there's a part here where by having different things, it can really be appealing and a good place to kick off with to help students manage themselves. Now, we have a tool that was created from one of our technicians, Arena at Cedar Street, a personal choice board. And this is really looking at when a student is calm, What are some of the activities as a tier 2 student that they have tried, that we've implemented with them, that we know is successful or they find beneficial, and putting that on a choice board that they have options here, because when they're hyped and upset or frustrated, they don't want to have a conversation. They don't want options and choices, and they sometimes don't even want to talk to the adult. So by having a personal choice board that we have set up with them at a time when they were calm and they were receptive to intervention, is that by having that, they can go directly to their board and be able to choose which activity they're going to do. So this becomes a step removed of
Mm,
intervention, but they have a sense of control, a bit of a steering wheel of which way am I going. And the other part here is we would also want to be changing these up on rotation, where if something they're not choosing in the past while, or they're getting tired of it, they don't want to do it anymore, then we take it off and say, well, what else would we like to add in? This becomes a great way of working to introduce new things, because sometimes some of our kids are very shy about trying something new because they're not sure if they're going to like it, if they're going to be good at it, if they're going to be able to do it. And part of it is how can we try it out? So it doesn't mean that it's a have to, it's a want to, I can try it, but there's always an option to remove it. And I think that's the key piece. And what is their feedback on it? Did you like it a lot, medium, or yeah, didn't like it? Then we take that one out. Say, if I don't like something at all, then I don't want that either. But it doesn't mean you never bring it back. Depending on what it is, it might be something you want to bring back a little bit later, or another kid who enjoys that maybe could show them and share that with them. So the element of choice and option also helps to reduce frustration and gives a way for them to express themselves, put their voice to it, but work through the emotions of what's going on. Now, setting up for successful online sessions, like some of our kids right now is, yes, we're heading to online for some online days. How can we help them prepare for that? How can we help them have in their mindset, it's going to be different. This is not a video game. This is going to be, I'm learning online. How can I set this up? So part of the work that we can do is we can coach, how do we choose and set up a good location? Because this is going to be a workstation, and call it that, a workstation. It's not a station to play, it's a workstation. Is there sufficient space for them to set up either the computer or an app, iPad, whichever one they're going to be working with, and to have the tools they're going to need for school? Do they have a school kit, their toolkit with their books of what they need? Is that been gathered together? So part of it is preparing that with them so that we're able to have that. It's a bit in the same way if we have a student going to another location and they're going to be working there for blocks of time. It is the same thing. There might not be online, but it would be similar to setting up for online work at home. Now, whether the kids are in class or online, we highly recommend brain breaks, because the kids can't sustain for long breaks of time, even online. They may be really good for video games and watching TV, but they tire of that also. So
mm,
the key is, if we want to maximize the learning and we want to get the best out of them, is it also really primes engagement, having fun, sharing, switching it up, having them involved. That's a key piece. So short blocks of time, putting in breaks into the routine, letting them know that there are going to be brain breaks, that if you're doing them in class, that when you go to teach online, that you will continue that because you know how much they enjoy it and how important it is and how it helps their brain grow. Kids like to know it helps their brain grow, that if they move, it helps them grow. That's a really big piece. We also want that in their area, that they're comfortable how and like where they're sitting and how they're sitting, that there is good lighting so that one, they can see well, but also you can see them. And we want to see, that they have enough space around them also, so that they can move during brain breaks, that they're not hitting on things or like at risk of bumping into things and getting hurt or breaking something, unfortunately. But is there enough space? And we know that, you have no control over this, but the key is, can we help parents consider those elements so that the child could be at their best in this different environment? Because they're used to doing school at school, but they're not used to doing school at home. So how can we help transition that? The other thing is, can we remove any potential distractions? What's around that would attract their attention, that would be distracting for them to remain focused with you online? So again, we need some parent support with this to make sure that we can remove some things. Some things will be easy to remove and some things won't be. Crying baby will not be easy to remove, and you can't control quite a bit. But at the same time, are there some things that we can have that control and that we can set up? The other thing is, we want to encourage them to go to the bathroom before class starts. That makes it easier. Then they're not in and out, but it's easier for you to get, get the flow underway in your group also. And also, many of our students are using fidget tools at school to help them manage themselves in class. So we would want them to have their fidget tools at home. One of the activities before heading to online teaching, because we know we're going to have online teaching days at the end of December, and then we're not sure yet about January, how that's going to unfold,
Mm.
but fidget making could be an activity as part of the prep to heading home for online teaching. So just something to consider there. Now, we would want, like Catherine mentioned in Tier 1, we want you to be creative and to use different mediums. So it could be through game formats, having some fun where you're drawing from a basket. It could be with the random wheel, the random picker wheel. Catherine has put 2 links there that you can, you'll have access to the document, and then you'll have access to the link that you can go check out, that you can type in, whether it's like students' names or different activities. You can use it for all kinds of things, but this is a fun way of showing that. We would encourage you to be very creative and use different mediums. If you play a musical instrument, now's the time to show off your talent. Not that you haven't been doing it in class, and I'm sure you have, but take that up a notch where they're really getting that sense of the sharing and connecting with you, because being online, and this is what we're hearing from those that are teaching online right now, is that there is a greater challenge of being able to sustain attention, but the
Mm.
engagement and to build that connection and those personal touches. So something like you play a musical instrument is a really fun piece to add to that. If you have a comical side, you'll set up theme days. What are things that you like to do? So clearly this teacher is like a hat guy, and he's like attracting attention and very proud of it. Okay. So, but whatever it is that is your flavor is what we encourage. Not saying you have to do these, but saying what is your personal flavor, and add that piece. Maintaining interest and engagement can be challenging. So again, intersperse the teaching with interactive activities. Set up theme days, do show and tell with the students. One of the fun ones I've heard, and some of the teachers were doing this in the spring, is setting up scavenger hunts, where they were asking students to, I would like you to find something blue, something that you use to either brush or comb your hair, and a rock. So they had to go running, go out and get the stuff and come back. So you're getting that physical brain break, that movement, but you're getting them up and just like getting in the groove, but also it's a challenge of being able to find those things. So having lots of fun with that, to be creative, and it could be a range of things. And the best would be to switch it up over time, to not always do the same things, because then it would get old very quickly. And
Mm.
if we want kids involved in trying it out, is also, is that the more that we change it up, the more fun it will be. We have a list of suggestions for online brain breaks. We've done some research in this area too. So what we've got here is Minute to Win It, Just Dance, Box Fitness program. Great number of schools in the province of Quebec are signed up with the Reebok program, the Box Fitness, and they have a whole list of activities. So if you're not involved there yet, that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I had teachers who in the spring, the kids were asking to do the box at home online because they'd enjoyed it so much at school, and it was one of the things they were missing when they were home. So I think whatever it is your format, is trying different things. And I would say, check out with your colleagues also, what are the students enjoying, and have a variety to just really, switch it up. Teachers Pay Teachers has a number of great resources. Some of them are free, others are not very expensive, a few dollars for the licenses. But here they have some that are jokes and some that are like brain breaks and warmer, like things to warm up that are fun and um, interactive. There's also, they had a brain break room, a virtual brain break room. So I think that could be interesting too. Again, most of them are quite inexpensive, but for us, what we did, our goal was to say, let's take some time to do some research to help facilitate things for teachers, because we know how busy you guys are, and support staff that are looking for other ideas, is to say like, what else is out there? So we've done some of the checking of what else is out there. At the same time, although we've built a document with a whole bunch of resources and their links, I'm going to be very honest with you, it is not the end all be all. I'm sure there are many more out there, but what we've done is hopefully a far enough and wide enough spread for you that you you will find different things in there that you will find interesting and appealing to
Mm.
do with your students. So it could go from a fitness bingo to setting up a fitness calendar where there's like activity every day. It could be how you start your lesson. It could be how you break it up. It could be how before you finish. So the key is really how can we integrate this so that it becomes part of the learning and movement so that we can help prime that attention, concentration, and focus. Others really game format. So again, if we're sending a tool, like a set of toolkits or loot bag home, is, if we want to do something like a roll of dice, it could be that we're sending a dice home with kids. We could be sending a fitness bingo card home with them. So the range is really incredible as to what it can be. And the key is really to say, how can we change it up? So as we did for tier one, we put together a card, a sheet that is a brain break suggestions. We've put one together for the online brain breaks. My suggestion would be, and what I've done with one that I printed up was that I have on one side the brain break suggestions for the in the classroom. So these are tier one interventions. And then on the back is I put in the online brain breaks. So my suggestion would be to, when you're in the classroom, this can be a very quick visual reminder or just another idea. Because sometimes when we're in the thick of things, we go back to the same ones that we were doing. Like Catherine was saying, we kind of just get stuck in a rut a little bit. Okay. And part of it is to say, hey, something else to think about quickly. But it could
Mm.
also be that we can check off. So which ones have we done? So we're going to different things and then we can wipe it off. So it could be laminated or put in a plastic sheet cover. And the online is the same thing. So all of these links are put into the resource document that we've created. And Catherine will show you where those are.
Wonderful.
So I'm going to stop sharing so that you can swap over.
Wonderful. Okay. So I will. All
We had a lot of
right.
fun doing this.
Yes, we did. We
I think we
did.
should name our favorite one after.
And so this is our web page. Eva, I don't know if you could type into the chat box for people the web address just
Yes.
in case. And so cbm.ca, you come to the home page. We had temporarily here a link to the event that we're at today with all of the different attachments that are right here, one underneath the other. And then last time we had talked about, last week we presented on the intervention continuum. We brought it back to make the link between brain breaks in the continuum. And so this is where you could click in. I even have here for the brain break activities and for the movement break posters. And so all of these links will take you to the same page. I'll just show you from the menu. You would go into projects, scroll to the first one, which is intervention continuum. You click onto here. And then you've got our intervention continuum page. For those who have not had the opportunity to see the presentation last week, we have a recording here. And so you could go and listen to the recording. The document itself is available right here. And so you can click on there and that will bring you to the document. By the way, we also have a French page. And so you can click on the corner here, they'll bring you to the French section. And we have this document that is available in French. Unfortunately, we have not translated everything. It would have taken way too much work, but we did translate this one page. And when you come down here, so you've got all of the different annexes by tier. So for universal interventions, targeted, and then individualized, the ones that are highlighted in red are the ones that we are referring to for the brain break presentation. So I'll just open a couple just to show you. And so the suggestion card, this is the suggestion card that Martine put together. You've got here the one for tier one, and then you've got the one for tier two. Those are available to print them in color if possible. And so those are for you to keep. Then we have here the list of the different activities that I referred to you to. So you've got them one page per cycle. So K, cycle one, cycle two, cycle three. And then you've got in class and online, and they're all there per quiet activity, physical, and by group. So I invite you to go and print those off.
They can be downloaded, right?
Yes,
Download
anything
them.
can be
Yeah.
downloaded and saved onto the computer and then printed off, shared with colleagues. And so The next one is the resource list that Martine was talking about. We're trying to make work easier for you. So we've got here pictures of the different ones that we have found, and you've got the link here. Many of them are teacher pay teacher. And so you can go and purchase the license for it. And we've got 4 pages of different links here. A lot of stuff. This is the document that Martine was talking. Oh no, it was Eva who was talking about this earlier. That there was a project going on in our province. That's the document right there.
If people are
And then
interested, they are offering an online training. It's a people can sign up and get an access to a recording for the training, and you need to just email Geneviève Fulham. She's the person who is coordinating and working that, and there isn't a cost to the training. There's no cost.
right, and actually the document is linked here directly. I remember that I have it on the website, so you can just go and download it or just take a look at it there.
Catherine, maybe if you just actually go back to the document, I just
Yeah,
want to,
sure.
in that document, just to let people know, there are 2 links. One is to an elementary, one is to a high school of a project that they did, and it's video, quite interesting. Just go down a bit more. I think you're coming to it closely. So the links are there that you can go to, and
Here.
right here. So one of them is École Primaire Saint-Paul, is how they did it at the elementary, and then there's a project how they did it at the high school, École Secondaire Montbleu. So just for that to be there. And I saw somebody's question regarding her email address. Geneviève Fulham is, you have it on the document.
Yes, I'll show where it is just so it's not confusing. So in the resource, the resource links on page, that's last page. So on page 4, her email's right here, genevieve.fulham, and then you've got the rest there of the address.
And there is a section of resources in French.
Right.
With videos in French also.
Another document that we've got here, we've got so many documents, but we wanted to really equip you. Eva's put together a list of all of the research references, and so if want to take a look at those, they're all here. We've got them under 2 pages. So everything is there. So this is for the universal. Then Martine was referring to the brain break posters. Of course, they're copyrighted. So right now we've got them here with copyright over them, but they can be available. Martine, I don't know if you want to share quickly in terms of if those would like to get the posters.
I think part of it is you can email me and we can see where you were from, because we have posters, but we need to respect the licenses with teachers pay teachers. So the licenses need to be purchased in order for me to release the posters. I'm happy to do so, but we need to respect the licensing. So they are best printed 11 by 17. They're made to fit that size and they come out really well. So the key is just, in order for us to be able to respect the licensing, is we need to ensure that licenses are purchased before I can release the posters.
Of course. I just wanted to show that the last 2 were actually free resources online. So those ones are there without a copyright on top. Those 2 you can take.
Yep.
All right. And then I also kept on there for those who may be interested. These also were free. These are for cards where get the kids to move, and so those are there as well. 1 second. So, okay. And then I also highlighted in red on the left-hand side, these are video capsules that Martine and I have created, explaining a bit more in terms of tier 1 brain breaks and tier 2 movement breaks. And so for those who may be interested, we're also going to be including the recording of today's session. Eva, anything else that you wanted me to say in terms of the website?
Did you put in that video of the hallway with the electrical tape?
Oh, so I don't have the link there directly. I think it's through one of the documents, but I could go back and add the link directly.
I think that's a fun one for people to see how simple, and you could do that in your classroom if you have a little spot in the back of your classroom.
Yeah.
Again, it's just really about simple ways to get children to just be a little bit more active. Well, thank you so much. This is a lot of material that has been pulled together. And again, of course, I know what you really wanted Catherine and Martine to do was actually do the brain breaks with you. But we just weren't sure if we would have enough time. But we're hoping that you get the idea. Now, if anyone has any questions or comments, I mean, please continue to use the chat. And
I
also,
would
if
I
there,
would encourage people, Eva, to go check out some of the video links around like the desk drumming,
yes.
because that to me is one of
Yeah.
like my most precious finds, because it can be done in different ways, where you can do it with the hands, but if you have pool noodles, like you need half a length, kids need like the value of one pool noodle cut in half, but the amount of energy you can get out of that, go check out those links. And
Mm,
I think you will be hard pressed to not start moving and grooving. Okay. So, and the key is the having fun and switching it up, and kids could be brought into doing routines. And yes, with the older students, because then they could be
right.
part of choreographing, and that you could assign days where it's like your turn, you pick the music, and kind of a thing. I think there's a lot of fun that can be had here of bringing kids in, even for the ones that are more reluctant. I think the key is not to push kids into it, but very much to invite them into it,
Mm,
and to speak to what kind of things do they like to do. So I think that again is if we have a variety of things, whether we have it on a sheet like this, or we leave a blank spot on it, or we create another one where it's like, hey, student ideas, and that's how you do it so that everybody gets to contribute. I think that will make it really interesting and fun. So our goal is go out there and have fun with it. These are times of high stress, lots of frustration with things we can't do and not the way we would want them to. And there's a part where how can we help kids navigate through all this emotional energy? And we're not finished. Like we're getting to Christmas, but we're going to be in this state till June. So how can we plan and map out to continue this marathon that we're in, to be able to have fun, catch our wind with it, and help readjust? For some students, the brain breaks, whether quiet or active, will make the difference with how they're able to cope and manage themselves in your group, in your classroom.
mhm.
So it is challenging for them. And for some kids that are not able to be in the group the whole time, it's okay. That's where they're at. Before COVID, they needed breaks. They were getting breaks before. So we can't expect them now to be contained in the groups. We had a
Yeah.
really interesting comment feedback not too like about a couple of weeks ago, where one of the professionals from our board was observed that, you know what, throughout the day, the kids are kept together in their classroom. And they're, if the teacher is doing brain breaks, then that's good. But for those that weren't, the teachers, when they switch groups and they go and teach in other classrooms, they're the ones actually getting the physical and the brain breaks out of the change the location, switch the environment, do
Mm,
something different, but the kids aren't getting that. So I'm not saying it's like that everywhere, but it was just an interesting observation that
yeah.
sometimes we wonder why the energy is building with the kids, but are they getting enough of this to be able to help them? Again, whether they're physical or whether they're quiet, is do we have that range that's offered to them? And
Mhm.
I think it's a good opportunity to kind of sit back and say, are my students giving me the best that they can? Or is it that I need to influx something else and switch up the order a little bit so that I can help them maximize? Kids want to give you their best. And if they start getting rambunctious, it's not because they want to, it's because they can't contain themselves anymore. Like it's just too
Yeah.
hard. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they can't.
Mm, mm,
And how can we help orchestrate and have support staff be helpers in this? Because
mm,
you don't need to be doing it all if you're the teacher. You could have the support staff helping you with it and switch it up. And hopefully everybody can have fun with it. You know,
mhm.
that would be
Ma-
my objective, goal,
Martin,
hope.
you mentioned before the desk drumming and a video of that. I put in the chat box a link to a Facebook page of it's a group that are doing all sorts of different brain break activities, and the brain
Hmm.
break the drumming there with the pool noodles is in on that page. So I invite you to go and take a look. There was a question here, I'm going to read it. Any brain break ideas for multiple groups for daycare somehow can be connected or build on each other from one group to another? Any suggestions?
Absolutely. Connect them with Zoom. And you could be doing this where one group does a routine and the others need to mimic it. It's
That'd
like
be
playing
cool.
a game, like a two-sided game. They're just in two different rooms. I
Yeah.
think this is where, the technology that we have now is amazing.
Mm,
Had it been like 20 years ago, we could not be doing what we're doing today, and we
mm,
could not envision it in the same way. So I think there's a part where how creative can we be with it so that we can make that a possibility. I think that's a piece to consider. Yeah.
I don't know whether they're asking whether, for example, with some of the like the puzzles or the group activities. I think again, and I know daycare is really struggling with this because sometimes they have one poor child all by themselves who can't join in on a group activity, and this is where again I think it needs to be
But
some.
many of the things, Eva, the kids can. If you're doing, let's say, example like a fitness bingo,
Mhm.
exactly. Or
if the
Simon
Yeah,
cards
Says.
are like you print the cards and they're laminated and they have a dry erase marker,
okay,
that can
that's fine.
easily be used and cleaned off after.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
So I think that there could also be that there are activities that are used for, like, you hold on to a set of things for a week and then they're swapped to another class or another group and there's a rotation and the kids know that there are fun things coming around. This I think is where we need to look at. Yes, it's not easy. It's not easy with all the constraints with COVID, but it needs to be not that we can't do it, but how can we make it
Mhm.
happen? How can we do it? Because I think that's really the essence.
Yeah.
That's really the essence.
And one of the things that I think again we need to recognize here is that the in this time of uncertainty, the children are looking to the adults. And it isn't just about can we keep them safe from COVID because that's, a huge issue. But what they're looking for is are the adults taking care of us? Are they
mm,
actively involved with us? And I know that you are as teachers actively involved with your children, but this is kind of just bringing up to the next level. It's kind of like, oh, I have another idea. Oh, I have something new to show you. And of course, the difficulty is that you yourselves are exhausted, so you don't feel like coming up with something new.
mm,
And yet the children are looking to see, are the adults still there with us? And so what we're hoping here is maybe just reintroducing you to things that you did before that you thought, oh, I forgot about that. Just
mm,
giving you that extra little bit of oomph and energy so that you can continue to be the adult leader in the classroom. Because our children all over the world right now are looking around and saying, you know, adults, are you there for us? And when you take charge of this kind of a thing, the message you're giving is, yep, I have another idea. And that's what our kids want to know. And that will make them feel a little bit safer, a little bit more secure. And as Martine and Catherine say, if you can just have fun with the kids, that reassures them as well that the world is going to be okay.
mm, mm.
Yeah. And it's okay to say that we find this long.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
how can we have fun while it's long?
Yeah.
It's like we're on a marathon, guys. It's a long stretch. So what can we do while we're in this stretch? Because it's you and
Mm,
me together. And I think that's the key piece is they need to feel that togetherness. And our hope is with the resources that we've gathered and that we're making available for you is hopefully that you're also feeling a bit of that sense of we are here with you and trying to say, hey, we know that what we have gathered and pulled together is not something new. But what we've
mm,
done is brought it together to hopefully facilitate and ease it a little bit for you that you've got access to many resources in one spot. And hopefully there's a few ideas in there that inspired you to try something else or to go like, oh yeah, I used to do that. That was fun. And I enjoyed that with my kids. So like, I'm going to, pull that one out. And I
mm,
think that's the key piece. And you know what? Everybody is trying their best. And we know how hard teachers and support staff are working in schools and daycare staff. There is no doubt about that. We're trying to provide some pieces to help ease some of the pressure, make it easy access at your fingertips. I think that's a good piece. If you want to reserve a date, save the date, Thursday, January 21st. We will be doing another presentation like we are today, and our topic is indoor recess. Indoor recess strategies, ideas, ways of setting it up,
mm,
orchestrating it. We're in the process of building templates and suggestions. Like what you have today is just like the sheets that Catherine is sharing is just a sample.
mm.
So, and everything will be made accessible by cycle again to help ease and that you can print and go by your cycle and have access. And we're providing suggestions, but we'll also provide templates, blank templates for you to be able to work from so that you could go create your own. Because again, we don't think that we've created the end all be all, but we do want to help with it because we know that, there's so much on your plate
Mhm.
and the taking the time to organize and do is a huge job. So
Sorry, I
that's
said
our goal.
November. I meant January.
Oh, yeah, don't go back, Catherine.
It's
December.
December. It is December.
We're a little alarmed here.
Yeah,
So
Oh my
Thursday,
goodness.
2021. Yeah,
January 21st. Yes, 2021.
yeah.
Yeah, people are going, oof. Yes.
Let's not go backwards.
We're
No,
not
no,
going
no.
back. No, we don't want to
No.
redo this. We're just going forward. It's enough of a marathon. We're not doing the duck dance on this, like back and forth. No way. No way. Okay.
Mhm.
Do we have other
Uh,
questions? Is there something that we can help or ideas or something else?
I had to, while people are typing in, I just had a thought in terms of that question for the daycare. I just, in case those groups are indeed in the same space, but can't be close together, they're kind of like in different pockets in the same room. I would say, any of the list of examples that we put on those sheets for brain breaks online, the virtual ones, would equally apply to where they've got multiple groups. And I'll give you a few examples. Like playing naming that tune. If somebody's humming a song and you need to figure out what that song is, or the memory game where you have to name in order in the alphabet all of the different things that you have to bring, like on your vacation or something,
Yeah.
all of these games that are just like these memory games, or where you can play this in the car. All of
Charades.
those games, charades, all of those can be used in the same space with different pockets of kids, and so they feel like they're part of the whole group. It could be even singing, where each pod has a different verse that they could sing. There's so many ways that you could go about that to create a sense of belonging and togetherness.
Yeah, because I know some daycares, they worry about the child who's kind of left by themselves, right? Because they're
Yeah.
the only one in that group. So yes, so those, yeah, exactly, games, group games, I Spy, right? Which you can do at a distance from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this is, children often love games led by the adults and that the adults can work with. So it's again, it's that caring for them, but it just requires a different way of thinking because normally in daycare they would be able to play with each other and keep each other somewhat occupied.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have to
We've got
put
it.
more.
We've got another question about students who are nonverbal and requiring brain breaks, and so suggestions in terms of that.
Well, I think two things. One would be definitely if they're starting to get physically agitated. So that is, then we take advantage of that and notice when then the energy
Mm-hmm.
level is going up. The other one also is partly just to when they're starting to lose attention.
Or
When
looking away.
so we have to read
Yeah.
the nonverbal signs
Yeah.
because 85% of human communication is nonverbal. These kids are letting us know. um, what I think sometimes it's really going to be one of the biggest challenges we're facing in this year is that we are used to devoting a certain amount of time to formal academics, and that space just isn't there as much. So again, one of the things most teachers need to do is to really pick and choose. What are the essential learnings? What are the things, okay, that I really want my students to focus on, and we do have to let go of some other kinds of things. But I keep reminding people as well, and I know we're getting close to the end of our time, I keep reminding people as well though that over the passage of time, no matter what's happening in our world, if children feel safe enough, and if we can just give them the sense we're taking care of you, their brain is growing. So they might not get something in November, but maybe in April, when things are calmed down a bit more, they might be more ready to learn that, right? Because learning is all about what we call getting close, the zone of proximity. So if their brain is getting closer to what we want to teach them, it actually goes much faster. So don't feel that if I didn't do it in November, they'll never know it in April. It actually
Mm-hmm.
can happen. But the challenge we have for right now with our children is keeping them feeling that the adults are there for them. And
Mm.
brain breaks are as much about that.
So yes, so in terms of the comment back, talking about breaking down the task with lots of breaks, and so it's not about having to wait to see, like the example with the child who's nonverbal, who doesn't have the pictos to ask for the break, but even a child who is verbal, sometimes they don't even realize or recognize that they need the break. And so rather than waiting that they need the break, let's do this in a preventative way where we're just putting it into the schedule and doing it more often. And so when we're doing it a lot, that like usually an attention span is about what, 20 minutes at the best of
Mm,
times.
yes.
And so changing it up every so often and allowing for that natural break to just happen and not waiting for it to be too late and that the child has a meltdown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm,
Well, I see that we're at the end of our
yep.
time. So thank you very much for all of those of you that have had come and stayed. And we wish you all the best. If we don't see
Mm-hmm.
you over the holidays, we wish you a good holidays. We know that December is a busy time in schools, and you're going to make it a wonderful time for the children. As I say, I notice
Mm.
on Facebook the wonderful, wonderful things teachers in schools are doing, and that's just what you need to be doing. So we wish you all the best, and we will see you in the new year.
Bonjour, Richard.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
everybody.
for your comments, guys, very
Yes, thank
much.
you.
Oh, thank you, Isabel. There was